Good evening, everyone. It is I, CoasterCrazy, and long time no see. I'm back with another installment of Ridden, Ranked, and Reviewed, and this time we're at Six Flags Over Texas, the OG Six Flags Park. Full credit to Parks Bros for the idea of Ridden, Ranked, and Reviewed. I will leave their channel in the description. The way this works is that I have 1 minute to review and rank every coaster at Six Flags Over Texas, with the exception of Wile E. Coyote's Canyon Blaster, which is the park's kiddie coaster. So, let's get into it. At number 13, we have La Vibora. La Vibora is a pretty fun coaster, minus the fact that it's rough if you sit anywhere but the front row. It also has horrendous capacity and the slowest moving line in the park. But at least this ride has a single rider line. Pretty okay, but definitely the weakest coaster at Six Flags Over Texas. At number 12, we have Mini Mine Train. One of Arrow's earliest coasters, Mini Mine Train is a step up from most kiddie coasters. Coming in at just under 1,000 feet long, it is a pretty long ride for what it is. This ride runs in the infield of Mr. Freeze, so it can be fun if you are there when Freeze goes by. The only downside to this coaster is that the trains can be cramped if you're an adult. Oh, and this is also the coaster Mr. Beast rode for that one video. So, there's that too. Here at number 11, we have Judge Roy's Scream, which is the classic William Cobb wooden coaster of this park. Its setting is very beautiful as it runs alongside a pretty big pond and is secluded from the rest of the park with a tunnel. There's a few floaty moments and it can be a little rough in some spots, but it's pretty bearable. There's a pretty good head chopper moment with supports and some low clearance roofs at the end of the ride. It's a coaster that will leave you with a dumb grin every time. I hope this ride stays for a long time. At number 10, we have Joker, an average SNS free spin. It's very smooth, and I prefer the theme of Joker for this type of ride rather than Batman like at Fiesta. It really fits his unpredictable personality. On this one in particular, it feels like you don't flip as much as Batman at Fiesta, but I've had some pretty fun hang time moments which can be pretty intense. But the main problem with this ride is that the line moves very slowly, so make sure to take use of the single rider line for this one. This coaster is also pretty unreliable, so it's almost a gamble when it will be open. At number 9, we have Runaway Mountain Train. Arrow's first ever mine train, and I must say, Arrow is the only company I could ever see doing mine trains. They are so janky that they feel like an old abandoned mine train. This one in particular just finished the refurbishment of the controls and the final brakes, so it seems that Over Texas is doing a great job to preserve this classic. Ride-wise, there isn't many coasters with 3 lifts. Runaway Mine Train, one of the longest coasters at Over Texas, coming in at 3 minutes long. A fantastic family coaster. I have never met anyone who has ridden this and not at least enjoyed the ride. Oh, and that part where it goes underwater is great. Do not miss this classic whenever you visit Over Texas. At number 8, we have Pandamonium. Like Joker, Pandamonium offers an unpredictable ride experience. If you get it right, the ride spins like crazy. If you get it wrong, it's a pretty average coaster. I've only had like one ride where we spun quickly the entire time. It's rare, but it's a blast when you finally get one of those rides. But since this ride only seats 4 per car, it has horrendous capacity, and to add to that, it is one of the first coasters people see when they enter the park. So let me tell you the key to riding Pandemonium more than once during your visit. This is the hardest single rider line to find. It's located on the left of the station off the midway, but when you do find it, it will typically be under a 5-minute wait, which makes it one of the easiest rides to marathon at the park. At number 7, we have Runaway Mountain. Everything seems faster in the dark, as they say. This ride is no exception. Even though it doesn't go over 40 miles an hour, it feels more like 60 miles an hour. This ride is also very smooth. A very fun and underrated indoor coaster for sure. It's pretty odd for a coaster by Premier, but holy moly, that drop off the mid-course is insane in the front row. You get lateral ejector airtime. It's so unexpected out of a coaster like this. Make sure to get some room just for that drop, and then brace for the final brake run. If you don't, you'll get airy force 1. Trust me. If the queue goes outside of the building, that means it'll be 10 minutes max. But if it's a lot longer than that, use the single rider line located off the exit of the ride. Walk on pretty much every time for single riders. At number 6, we have Batman, the Ride. One of the fastest paced Batman clones I've been on. Night rides on this in the very back row will change the way you look at Batman clones. And on top of that, it is insanely smooth. And if you're a photographer and get a dueling shot of Freeze and Batman, it's guaranteed to be a banger photo. And speaking of bangers, you will not get any headbanging, even in the rolls. Anyway, I can't wait to see how Freeze and Batman clash after Batman undergoes its repaint later this year. What more is there to say that hasn't already been said? Great coaster. At number 5, we have Titan. The tallest, fastest, and longest coaster in Texas is kinda underwhelming for a hyper. Unlike most, I enjoy the first half of the ride and the laterals on the turnaround and its insane positives in the helixes. But that brake run kills the ride and is the exact reason it's stuck here in number 5. The second half is fun, don't get me wrong, but the brake run bringing you essentially to a complete stop before this segment kills the pacing. If the park could somehow reprogram the brakes to just slow it down a bit, I feel like the second half has potential to be insane. But as it stands now, I cannot put this any higher on the list. Coming in at number 4, we have Aquaman PowerWave. The newest coaster in the Over Texas lineup, Aquaman is a new water ride Over Texas needed. Fun fact, this is currently my most ridden coaster, coming in at 45 times as of recording. So I'd say I'm pretty familiar with it. The turntable is something I could watch for hours on end. It's enthusiast eye candy. The swing launch is a typical mock launch, that is until the third pass. The reverse ejector hill slaps. And then that back spike gives some really fun floater. It really makes 150 feet feel tall. And then that splash makes every other splash look tiny in comparison. Imagine an aero flume splash, which is already big, but 4 times bigger. You get drenched no matter what row. But if you're looking for the wettest spot, front row is the way to go. Based on a recent visit, this ride has been moved down a spot. Some glaring issues have made the ride much harder to enjoy, such as one boat ops and the turntable being slowed significantly. At least it has a single rider line, I guess. At number 3, we have Shockwave. What a fantastic ride. Schwarzkopf really outdid himself with this one. Since this ride opened 1 month after Mindbender at Over Georgia, and they both have 2 loops, you would think that they may be equal. But unfortunately, this is not the case. Shockwave is significantly better than Mindbender. The double loop on Shockwave pulls an insane 4.9 Gs, where on Mindbender, the loops are spaced out, so now, the first loop feels slow, and the second loop has pretty good force, but not on the same level as Shockwave. Mindbender also has a rough but forceful turnaround, but on Shockwave, it's instead insanely janky ejector airtime in the back row. That refurb of Mindbender seems to have killed the ride in comparison to Shockwave. I also can't wait to see the fresh blue paint on it in the next few years. In the number 2 spot, we have New Texas Giant, the OG RMC. For a first coaster, Giant is no disappointment. Sure, it pales in comparison to every other RMC, but for a first coaster, they sure did take a lot of risks. There's some really good airtime moments, like the drop and the speed hill before the mid-course. Unlike most coasters, this ride runs faster when it's cold, which is interesting, but that unfortunately means that most of the time it runs slow. But if you prefer a coaster that has light airtime most of the time and some overbanked turns, rather than insane ejector hills and whippy rolls, you'll probably enjoy this one more than most of the other RMCs. I also love the theming of the station. It feels very Texan. With the ride panel being a toolbox and the classic cars, it makes it one of my favorite stations at Over Texas. And the trains. Oh, the trains. They are themed to 67 Cadillac convertibles. They are great, and not to mention, the restraints are also very comfortable. And finally, we've made it to number 1, Mr. Freeze and Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast. Well, we have made it. The best coaster at Six Flags Over Texas, both directions of Mr. Freeze. After the most recent Valley, Over Texas decided to run one side backwards and one side forwards. Backwards is better, but either way you're in for pure insanity as you launch out the tunnel and into the inverted top hat, into the overbanked turn, right into the spike. Then you get pulled up and back down as you do the whole ride in the opposite direction. The whole ride's pacing is breakneck. If you love hyper-intense launch coasters like I do, you'll love this one. The main reasons backwards is better is 1, the launch is better in reverse. How many coasters can you go 0 to 70 in 3.9 seconds backwards? And 2, the spike in the back row looking down while being pulled up the spike is a feeling that is very hard to describe. Your body wants to go down, but you lurch forward because you get pulled up. It is crazy. All of this with just a lap bar, and there's some underrated airtime moments in and out of the inverted top hat. Hands down, best ride at the park. Just prepare yourself for the reverse side to be down, and it's much more reliable than forwards. And with that, here's the full ranking on screen for Six Flags Over Texas. Overall, a pretty diverse lineup of coasters. And now my question to you, what area do you think is better? Gotham City with Mr. Freeze, Batman, and Joker? Or is Texas better with Titan and New Texas Drive? Let me know in the comments, and I hope you enjoyed this new video. I plan on making plenty more videos like this in the future, so stay tuned. Stay crazy, everyone. Peace.